The School-Aged Essential ETR module is presented in three separate parts. The module provides a detailed overview of the evaluation team report, ETR process for school-aged children. The ETR process is required by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and the Ohio Operating Standards for the Education of Children with Disabilities in order to establish the presence of a qualifying disability or disabilities of a child suspected to have need for special education services and supports from ages 3 through 21 years old. This is part 1 of the module, focusing on referral and planning.
The ETR process begins with a referral from the multi-tiered systems of support team. This team could be the intervention assistance team, the teacher-led team, or other groups of professionals who provide interventions and supports for children who are struggling academically, functionally, or behaviorally. The team would complete the referral for evaluation, the PRO4. The parent may also initiate a request for an evaluation, either in writing or verbally, to the district. The district would provide the parent a copy of the parent notice, then complete the referral for evaluation, PRO4 form. It must be signed by both the person initiating and the person receiving the referral. Please note that a referral for evaluation may not be submitted by school personnel without including data from interventions applied to address the deficit or difficulty. Federal and state law require that each school district shall provide interventions to resolve concerns for any preschool or school-age child who is performing below grade level standards. This would also include behaviors that interfere with the child's access to or progress in the general education curriculum. The district must document the actual date the referral was received. This starts the 30-day timeline to inform the parents what the district intends to do and to obtain parental consent for an initial evaluation. If the district believes there is no suspected disability and declines to conduct an evaluation, the district must send the parent a prior written notice, PR01, stating the actions and the reasons the district refuses to initiate an evaluation.
Evaluation planning is a required component of the evaluation process. The evaluation planning does not require a face-to-face meeting. It can be held over the phone, through email, or other correspondence. The parent must be included in the planning process, or the district needs to document that the parent declined to participate or was not available after reasonable efforts to involve them. The results of the planning meeting must be documented on the planning form, which is a component of the evaluation team report, the PR06. You must select the appropriate planning form, school age or preschool, on the front page of the ETR. If the district suspects a disability and feels an evaluation is necessary, the district must invite the parent to participate in the evaluation planning meeting by sending the parent invitation, PRO2, form to the parent. The form also indicates other persons that have been invited to the planning meeting, such as the child, whenever appropriate, and outside agencies that would be involved in secondary transition. Many parents need as much notice as possible to be able to attend meetings. Parents who have jobs where scheduling is not flexible or have child care requirements need sufficient notice to schedule the time off in order to attend this meeting, as well as other meetings within this process. Consent for evaluation must be informed consent, showing the parent was involved in the planning process. This must be documented by a signature and date or notation of opportunity to participate on the evaluation planning form. It is important every effort is made to involve the parent in the evaluation process and to gather any relevant information about the child. Many districts treat this information as optional, yet the operating standards are clear. This information is to be part of any initial evaluation or reevaluation unless the parent does not respond or refuses to participate in the process. If the parent refuses to participate, the district must document multiple attempts to engage the parent in the evaluation process. Attempts to engage the parent may include phone calls, emails, notices sent home with the child, registered letters, meeting the parent in the hallway, parent-teacher conferences, home visits, etc. Reasonable attempts to conduct meetings on additional dates, not simply attempts to include the parent in one single meeting date, must be demonstrated by the district. This can be done on the OP9, attempts to obtain parental participation form, or a district-created form. On the top of the school age ETR Planning form, there is a space to enter the suspected disability. There may be multiple suspected disabilities, and they all should be listed here. The planning form consists of 3 columns, 2 that need to be completed by the team. The first column lists assessment areas related to suspected disabilities. The second column will indicate all data and documentation that the team currently has to address the items in the first column. The team will decide if there is sufficient data available, if additional testing or data is needed, or if it is not applicable for each listed assessment area. If additional testing or data is needed, the third column documents the title of the person responsible for gathering the data and documentation. The signature and dates at the bottom of the planning form are the district's documentation that the parent and the appropriate team members were part of the planning process. If the parent does not sign the planning form, the district will need to have additional documentation showing reasonable efforts were made to obtain the parent's input regarding the evaluation. If the parent was unable or declined to be involved, documentation must be kept by the district demonstrating this case. Consent for evaluation must be informed consent. The parent must be involved in the planning and decision-making to ensure that he or she understands what areas will be assessed, by whom, and for what purpose. This is especially important for the initial evaluation. At the end of the evaluation planning meeting, the district should present the parent with the consent for evaluation, the PR-05. This form documents informed written consent given by the parent or guardian, allowing the district to proceed with the proposed evaluations, assessments, and data collection. The PR-05 should be date stamped by the district to document the date the district received the signed parental consent. The 60-day timeline to complete an initial evaluation starts on the date the district receives parental consent. If the district does not date stamp the PR-05, the date the parent signed is the start date for the 60-day timeline. The prior written notice, PR-01, must be sent to the parent after the planning meeting, explaining all the assessments and evaluations proposed in the meeting. Summary of required forms for evaluation. The PR-01 prior written notice must be sent to the parents if the district decides not to initiate the evaluation process. The notice needs to state the action and the reason the district refuses to initiate an evaluation. The PR-04, Referral for Evaluation, begins the evaluation process and is completed by the district team. The PR-02, Parent Invitation, must be sent to the parent to invite them to the evaluation planning meeting. Evaluation planning form, a component of the PR-06, documents the results of the evaluation team planning meeting. The PR-05, Consent for Evaluation, must be signed by the parent after the evaluation planning meeting. This form may be presented to the parents at the planning meeting to obtain their signature. And the PR-01, prior written notice must be sent to the parent after the planning meeting explaining all assessments and evaluations proposed. Under federal and state requirements, school districts must assess children in all areas related to the suspected disability. The evaluation shall be comprehensive and identify all of the child's special education and related service needs. For instance, if a suspected disability of speech and language is addressed in the planning process, a speech and language evaluation alone is not sufficient for a complete evaluation. All areas of possible issues must be assessed: vision, hearing, and any other areas that may affect the child's learning and functional speech. Failure to assess in all areas of suspected disability can result in the failure to provide services to meet each of the child's needs. If the need is never identified, it cannot be addressed through the IEP. To address all areas of a suspected disability, a thorough collection of data should take place: observations, interventions, and assessments, and from a variety of sources: parents, teachers, and specialists. 5 disability categories have required assessment components as part of the evaluation process. They are specific learning disability, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, visual impairments, and hearing impairments. As part of the planning process, the team should ensure it has documented the inclusion of all components on both the evaluation planning form and within the ETR. Please review the cited portions of the operating standards for more information regarding the required assessment components. For reevaluation of students who are in the category of SLD, it is not necessary to redo the intervention process. However, there should be documentation that current observations and assessments in the specific area of weaknesses were completed. Updated classroom observations must also be completed. If another area of disability is considered during the assessment that was not originally addressed on the ETR planning form, the planning team must do at least one of the following. 1. Reconvene the team to include the new suspected disability on the planning form. Or 2. Amend the planning form and have all team members date and initial the form indicating that they agreed to the need for further assessments. After one of these options has been completed, the district will send the prior written notice, PRO1, to the parent explaining the changes proposed and enacted by the district. Please note, this does not extend the 60-day timeline. The reason for an evaluation should be directly linked to the child's performance in the general education curriculum and be clearly communicated to the planning team. This is documented on the PRO1 and in Part 2 of the ETR. Stating that the reevaluation must be done every 3 years does not justify why the district proposes a reevaluation or why the child continues to qualify as a child with a disability. The team must use a variety of assessment tools and strategies to gather relevant functional, developmental, and academic information about the child, including information provided by the parent. Assessments and tests used in the evaluation process must be technically sound, not discriminate based on race or culture, be provided and administered in the child's native language or other mode of communication, be validated for the specific purpose for which they are being used, and be administered by knowledgeable persons in accordance with the instructions provided by the test publisher. The individual evaluator's assessment form must be filled out for each entry of data and testing results from individuals identified on the planning form as responsible for part of the evaluation process. The form includes the evaluator's name, title, or position, areas of assessment or data collected as listed on the planning form, and the evaluation or data collection methods and strategies. There must be information collected and reported in Part 1 to match all suspected disabilities as stated on the planning form. The assessment information must include a summary of information obtained from the assessment results or information gathering process per the evaluation plan, including the child's strengths, areas of need, and baseline data. The summary of assessment results must be clearly stated in terms all team members, including the parent, will understand. It should include the source of the assessment, testing or information collection protocols involved, the date the assessment was conducted, or the date of the previously available information, and the interpretation of the assessment results where applicable. There must be a complete description of educational needs based upon the assessment results that include relative strengths, areas of need, and baseline data where appropriate. The evaluator must clearly describe implications for instruction and progress monitoring based upon the results of the assessments and description of educational needs. The implications for instruction should include more than a list of accommodations recommended for that student. It should suggest instructional strategies and propose progress monitoring that will help the child access and make progress in the general education curriculum. Finally, the individual evaluator's assessment page must be signed by the evaluator who provided the input and be dated to reflect the date of the signature.